There we go, because we're going to talk about Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb. Both number one, look at this, that is out of there, and number two. Let's see. You see, number one is over there, off to the right, and number two is right over here to the left. I think the card is getting a little washed out here, so I'll take that off. But here you go, so you can let's see. Sorry, P Money, if I'm getting you in trouble here, but there we are. Let's see. Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb. Am I missing something? No. Okay. So what we got here, got Battle Maiden the other day. Just very briefly, I want to just kind of mention this and let me know in the chat or let me know elsewhere if you're watching this later. Bear, one of the things Bear's trying to do is do what's called HDR video, which is kind of a wider gamut of essentially would be colors, but also light levels as well. The best way to describe it is kind of the boxes of crayons that you would get. They kind of had the smaller box. That's kind of what you're looking at now, and then what would be HDR would be that the big huge box with like 50,000 different colors in it. That would be the HDR, but YouTube doesn't really like it very much, especially when you're trying to upload it, and Beer's had a lot of issues with that, so wanted to have the box opening out first, was trying to get it out yesterday and then today, and it's just not working. I don't know what's going on. I might have to change it around or something like that, but long story short, it actually came, let me see if I can, bear with me here. It actually came with a bunch of different goodies, which is, Keung, kind of went all out with it. He's got this little standee here. There we are. Pretty cool. And a number of prints, nice prints. There's actually two of them there. Let's see. And I don't have it right in front of Bear, but a number of cards as well. So, yeah, I mean, if you got this and all the swag that came with it, I mean, man, oh man, what a package, what a package deal that he was able to come out with. So, I hope some of that stuff is going to be coming in the what should he call that? The standard version. Some of that stuff comes in the standard version. If not, maybe kind of offer that for people. But yeah, he did a really good job with that. But we're just going to talk about the main comic here instead of all the swag that's going on with it. But so Battle Maiden 1, this one, was one of Bear's favorite comics. Wasn't expecting it at all. Not a manga fan at all. Hadn't really ever read a manga comic book before. If he had, doesn't remember it or anything like that. So the manga thing was very new to Bear. Kind of had to learn a couple things about it, but I guess the first big thing was that it was in black and white. It wasn't in color or anything like that. So it was all line work. So it really kind of depended on the quality of the artist and his artwork. To come through the page, you weren't hiding behind a bunch of look at all the colors. Oh, they were great and everything. So yeah, that was one, and it started out slow. There's one thing about Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb. First, I don't know, he divides them up into chapters, so you get 2 chapters a book. So each book, has 2 chapters in it, 4 total so far. So about halfway through the first chapter, it was a lot of setup. They were setting up a lot of the characters, a lot of the background story, a lot of the world building and such. So it took a little bit. Bear was kind of, I don't know. And then about halfway through, finally started to get into the action, started to get into the butt-kicking action that Keung Lee is known for, and his thick ladies as well. That took a little bit, but after that, the first book just took off. I mean, after that, it was just a kind of a freight train of just action and adventure and all that sorts of stuff. But he did have to, set the table a little bit. There was actually a bigger world out there than just kind of what Battle Maiden was going through and everything. So, it took a little bit of time for that. But once it got going, man, oh man, it got going. The other great thing about Battle Maiden, the first book, Battle Maiden's a great character. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing. Talk all day about Battle Maiden and kind of her character arc and everything. Um, it's one thing to have a great main character, your title character. It's another thing to have a great main character battling a great villain, and that's actually what Battle Maiden Knucklebomb #1 had was the great. I think it was Berserker. I keep trying to say Beard Jerker, and all respect to Don Chen. No, it's not Beard Jerker. I think it's Berserker. Um, a great character. Bear was trying to go back and kind of go through his noggin here, trying to remember, some of the great CG villains out there. Probably what was his name? Van Helsing from the first two Graveyard Shift 1 and 2. He was a really good villain. I like that. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, after that, Bear really has to think and scratch his head. Maybe you guys have some ideas out there, but it was kind of hard to come up with a great. You're always fighting against somebody, but I think actually I've got it right here. I'll show it in just a second. But Keung had kind of a little artist book or kind of an expansion book that he was talking about, and in there he was talking about how great a character Berserker was and how great it was to write that character. Basically, the dialogue came out. If you read the book, it's a really interesting kind of dichotomy between how Berserker talks and how kind of Battle Maiden talks. What her name? Saya. Saya, I think is her actual name or something like that. So, anyways, so they had. Yes, we do need a character called Berserker. I like that. Let's see. P-Money also says, my wife just saw the screen, and she says, well, on the bright side, you can't cheat on me with a 2D drawing. No, you can't. No, you can't. So, no, but I tell you what, both of these books are very good, and it's not, they're really good characters. I mean, sure, you can look at the pretty pictures and everything, but Battle Maiden is pretty well a very fleshed out. Should I say that? A very well, very well fleshed out character there. Has the great character arc there. Also, Berserker as well has a great character arc. So, Battle Maiden Knucklebomb #1. I'm saying that 3 times fast. Was Bear's #1 book out of all the ComicsGate books that have been out or come out, night and day. One of the great ones out there. Battle Maiden 2 basically starts up right where the first book ends up. The two characters are fighting. Battle Maiden and Berserker, they're out there fighting it out, battling it out and everything. And, they get to, basically, they fight to a draw. Berserker, is able to escape, to come back another time or something like that. You're figuring, okay, all right, at the very end of the book, they're gonna get right back into it, and it's gonna be a great and awesome fight. No, and again, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I'm not gonna try and spoil it for anybody, but no, it basically took the world building of the first book and just multiplied it times 5. It was the very beginning of the book was kind of the reverse of the first book, because there was a lot of great action that happened within the first 10 or 15 pages or so. And then after that, it was a lot of exposition. A lot of, well, let me see if I can show here real quick. Bear with me for 1 second while he grabs it. I'll grab the book here. Grab the book. Actually, it came out with a really cool, what does he call it here? What do you call it? A supplement. A very cool supplement. It talks about. Actually, the whole book is nothing but characters and some background and stuff like that. But let me just show you here real quick. Here's the book, by the way. Book. Here we are. You only got two. He only had 2 options. So you had kind of just the regular book, and then you had kind of the. I forget what it was called. Kind of like the deluxe version or something like that came with the extra book. What does he call it? The C2 Supplemental, as it were. So anyway, it's got that. Very nice book. It was a read through, man. Oh man, that took quite a while. Anyways, it's got the different character. That's our new main bad guy. We'll get to that in just a second. But it talks about all the different. He likes the cards, so it's got all the different stats and stuff like that that's on there. I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Let me bring the microphone over here. There we are. There we are. Didn't want to just be jabberjawing and nobody can hear. But anyway, so the whole book is nothing but characters and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to show you here real quick if I can get to it. Oh, the claws just aren't what they used to be. There we are. Okay. So here is the entire. Let me see if I can get to them all. The entire Battle Maiden. Let's see if I can turn this on real quick. Get some better light. Is it on? There we go. There we go. So there's the entire cast of characters, at least in this book, the past two books, of Battle Maiden Knuckle. I don't know. How many is that? A good 20? 25 characters there. So, let's see. There's Berserker right there. There we are. And then Battle Maiden right there. And then a whole bunch of other characters that, so, what happened? Let me get the microphone bigger. Sorry, people. There we are. So what happened was, I can't remember, did Keung Lee ever offer the comic digitally? I don't think so. I don't think it was. Although, let me just say, just real quickly, to any of the comics gate artists out there, you know, especially if you've gotten your second or third book or something like that out, one of the things that Bear did was actually go back and read the first book. It had been about a year. Since he had checked it out, so need a little bit of a kind of a refresh course there. So I went back, checked out the first book, and then actually read this, which took a while. All the characters in there because just wanted to kind of refresh and kind of get to the idea and everything. I would suggest for any of the artists out there that are putting out book 2 or book 3, and their first book came out a year and a half. If you're the Red Rooster, 2 years ago. Well, actually, his book didn't even come out until just this year, but, you know, if it takes 2 years or something like that, maybe have a very 2-page, 3-page kind of previously on the first book, here's what happened. If not that, maybe offer the digital comic, you know, have it as a reduced quality so people aren't taking it and reprinting it and that sort of deal. But yeah, I think to be able to catch people up, especially if you don't have the first book or the first 2 books and you're kind of jumping right on into the action in the second book or third book or something like that, I think having something like that actually helps. You know, oh, okay, this is what happened. Okay, so-and-so is connected to so-and-so. All right, now I can go forward and stuff like that. So I think that would be something that some of the artists out there might want to kind of take a look at in the future or something like that. So, no, I don't think Keung ever offered it digitally. He might offer the first one digitally. Keung is a lot like your boy Zach, where basically he offers, let's see, the last campaign I think had 4 items. It was the book, I think 2 books, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, it was a book and something that came with it. He offered a sketch cover book, and then he also offered a 11x9 sketch as well, or drawing, whatever. This campaign, he only offered the book, and then also the book with the supplemental. So that was it. That was, you know, it wasn't like Baskin Robbins where you got 32 flavors. I mean, you got 2 choices. That was it. So that was it. So yeah, I don't think he's offered a digital version, but Bear could be wrong. He could be wrong. Let's see. I never knew about the standard edition. I might get that. Yeah, definitely check out the standard because yeah, he offers it. I believe it's at a lower price. And, you know, it just kind of comes in a format where it's easily, not readable, but, you know, it's not as in pristine condition as the premier editions. You know, it's got the rougher pages and stuff like that. So, yeah, I would definitely would recommend checking it out and everything. So, all right, where was Bear at? He was talking about, that. He was talking about something, Yeah, Andrew J says, I like that, just keep it simple. Yeah, I don't mind if he would have additions to it. Like he's got his Mirakumo, how do you pronounce it? Store where he does like the challenge coins and all the other stuff. I think that would be neat to do an add-on once you get the product. But yeah, just offer one or two. Really missed out on. Was hoping that he would do a sketch cover this time, but that's all right. That's all right. Okay, where was Beer? Where was anyways? He was talking about. I lost my place, but book number two kind of starts right back up where book one ends up. Um, but then they kind of go into a lot of exposition for all the characters that they introduced. You saw all the different characters that they introduced. And that was kind of a downside to Bear because in the first book, they basically set it up. It's basically a your super soldier type situation. So you get your normal person, your Captain America type, and then he gets injected with the sermon. In this case, her, and transforms into the superhero or whatever. So in the story for the first book, they were experimenting on different people, and it wasn't turning out right. Battle Maiden's uncle was in charge of all that stuff, and one night Battle Maiden meets up with the uncle, and Berserker shows up and basically shoots Battle Maiden. So now I hope I'm not spoiling this for a year-old book here, but anyways, goes into the lab there to save his niece and injects her with the serum that he'd been working on. So she gets the superpowers, but without Mirakumo. Thank you. I have it right in front of me, but sometimes bears. I tell you what. Now he can speak English, just not Japanese. What can you do? What can you do? So in the first book, they have kind of implying. In fact, they show a lot of the stuff where they have the different monsters. I'm just going to call them monsters. The different monsters that they've created. And one of them had escaped from the lab. So they had kind of a little side story in the very first book talking about one of the mutants or monsters that escaped. And then it shows kind of a rogues gallery, I suppose, of the different monsters. And you figure, oh, okay, he's taking a lot of inspiration from video games and stuff like that. So in the first book, you have kind of I'm trying to remember the name of the character. I forget. It was sort of like a monkey type character, I suppose, that Battle Maiden had to fight first. So if you kind of think of the video game situation, kind of like maybe a mid-level boss. If you're, like a Super Mario Brothers game or something like that, you got the mid-level boss, and then Berserker would be the level boss or something like that. So okay, they've defeated the first level boss. All right, now another monster is going to get out, and Battle Maiden's going to have to fight them and all this other stuff. So no, none of that. That basically gets kind of broomed aside. And a lot of the time that was spent kind of building that up in the first series was kind of just kind of tossed to the side to make room for a new story and a new characters, I should say, a whole bunch of different characters. Instead of just kind of continuing with that story. And basically, and not to ruin the story, I'm not going to give anything away or anything like that, but it has a kind of a supernatural element to it. So there's some interesting things there where there's a character. I think I showed her very briefly when I was doing the supplemental, the main bad guy character, and she kind of is a character from beyond our realm, I suppose, and she kind of creates these um, foes for Battle Maiden out of like clay and stuff like that. So it's kind of I forget what the name of the golem monsters, kind of something like that. So it kind of shifts between these sort of super soldier serum fighting monsters sort of deal to going to a supernatural thing, which Bear wasn't. That's not a bad idea, but it should have waited till issue 3 or issue 4 or something like that. There wasn't enough build up for that. In the first issue, there was plenty of build up for it. It was slow at first, but then once the action started, I mean, man, oh man, I mean, now you've kind of laid the groundwork. Let her go, let her battle out, and all that other stuff, and now you're having to redo a lot of this stuff. So Let's see. Hyde was the character. Thank you, Andrew J. Oh, good to see you, Miguel. Good to see you. Bear has a Knuckle Bomb only fan subscription. No. So, yeah, so a lot of the time and I would say pages that was spent in Battle Maiden #1 was kind of broomed aside, and now you have to introduce new characters, which is taking up more pages, um, which kind of distracted from the story. You had Keung. Let me just say this: Keung is a great artist, and he has improved his art. I mean, from this, I mean, you can just tell from the covers. I mean, the second cover is a lot better, I think. So, oh, let me turn off this light. There we go. So I won't reflect there. So he's doing a really great job with the artwork. He's doing a really good job with the writing. I was really surprised with all the character arcs. Um, Again, with the supplemental book here, there we are. There we go. He develops this huge world around it, but the downside is he just kept building the world, just kept making the world bigger rather than kind of playing within that sandbox a little bit. So the second book kind of has a little bit of a kind of a slightly less. If I was to rate Battle Maiden as a 10, the first book, the second would be kind of a 9 or 9.5. Not that it's bad or terrible or anything like that, but it just wasn't. It didn't complete the stuff that it was going for in the first book, just to expand the story for the second and third and fourth installments. The best way that Bear can kind of describe the two, and this isn't a knock, this isn't an insult, this isn't anything other than just kind of the way that Bear kind of thought about it, kind of going through everything. Again, not as a knock or anything like that, but if the first Battle Maiden was the very first Iron Man, the second Battle Maiden would be Iron Man 2. And I don't mean that in a negative light. I mean that in the second Iron Man, they decided, oh, okay, the first movie did really well. We're going to make another movie, and then it's going to be the series. So they started introducing a whole bunch of new characters, you know, your Black Widows and whoever, in the second movie when they really didn't. They just needed to concentrate on the. Oh gosh, what was his name? The Russian Iron Man. What was his name? I would say Igor or Ivan or something like that. That should have been the main villain of the story. It ended up being he kind of got a whole lot of scenes cut, and then you know you're introducing a whole bunch of different characters and all this other stuff. It just didn't flow as well as the first movie did. You know, you kind of had your sort of um, coming of age character story, and then you know your origin story, I suppose, and then you know you got your main villain there, defeating the main villain, go on to the next one, rah 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 rah. Well, the second one kind of let it down because they were so concentrated on the world building that they forgot to, you know, oh well, hey, wait a minute, we're making a movie. Let's just make sure that the movie is as good as possible, and then maybe if we want to expand the world or something like that, we can do that. I think the Marvel movies started to do that a little bit better, probably after the second Iron Man, where they would do kind of the what do they call that? The post credit scenes. So a lot of the world building would be going on in the post credit scenes. You would see the new villain coming up, or you know whatever the next movie is going to be. Oh, okay, you guys, something to look forward to there. So yeah, I think if Bear was going to rate it, I mean, again, one of Bear's. Listen, this is probably better than I don't know 85% of most of the ComicsGate stuff out there, and that's not a swipe against ComicsGate or anything like that. But you know, Bear was kind of trying to think. He's like, okay, Kyung is doing a really good job writing. I mean, that's a hard thing. Which, by the way, he actually had a video the other day. I'd encourage you guys to watch that, talking about writing and stuff like that. But yeah, in the second book, it just kind of took a little bit of a step back. But anyways, trying to think of the ComicsGate writers out there that you can kind of name. I mean, I can, you know, maybe name a couple of them. You know, Mark Polton did the Graveyard Shift series. Um, let's see, who did the Punchline? Um, I want to say Fowler. Is it Matt Fowler? Anyways, the writer for Punchline, I think that was a great writer. So Keung is doing a really good job with the writing. I just felt that, again, there was too many characters that was going on there. It kind of got muddled down. Every time you try and introduce a new character, you're kind of taking away a little, unless it's part of the momentum. Usually when you introduce a new character, you got kind of taking away just a little bit of the momentum there. Because you got to set up the characters. You got to spend, at least a couple panels, maybe a page or so. Okay, this is who this character is. This is why they do their thing. Yada yada yada. And I think Kyung did a really good job with that. It was just adding too many characters at a time. If he kind of went with the rogues gallery of the different monsters or mutants or something like that, and then maybe towards the end of the comics kind of hint towards this new, sort of ethereal character from beyond the not beyond the grave, but beyond the world. I think that would have worked out just fine. I think introducing it in, gosh, I want to say it was the fourth, what I'd call chapter. No, actually, I think it was at the end of the third chapter. They introduced the basically went from kind of sort of corporate sort of espionage sort of stuff. They had different corporations in the very first book, and so it kind of felt like, oh, okay, this corporation versus that corporation, and this and that. It turns out that the corporation was working for, I don't know what you'd call it, the devil, I don't know, whatever. So it kind of took the things from a little bit more of a, I don't know how you would describe a young lady who takes a special serum and becomes a superhero as realistic, but kind of took it from the realistic realm to the kind of, uh, you know, kind of fantasy realm, I suppose. So it kind of was just, it wasn't a bad choice. It was just, I think it was a little too soon. I think you needed a little bit more with Battle Maiden going on and then lead into it as like the third book or something like that. So. Oh, the one last thing, and it's, gosh, it might be, a manga thing. Bear's not really sure. He hasn't really read that many manga. Well, Bear's only read 2 manga books, and both of them are Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb. So, I don't know if this is too much of a criticism or not, but the very first book was a pretty straightforward sort of action adventure sort of comic book. There were some elements of humor in there, but it was very, very few and far between. And not that that's a bad thing. It was just, this is the story we need to tell, and if we can tell a joke in here, that's great. But that wasn't the main focus. There's a lot more humor in this book. But it also kind of has this thing where he did it in the first book where Bear liked it, kind of transitioning from scenes or as a voiceover of some kind. They would have kind of the characters, but they would be kind of drawn in this sort of cutesy sort of cartoon way, and then they would have their little dialogue and they would be talking back and forth. That actually worked. That actually was fine. Bear liked that very much. It continues in the book here. Let me see if I can find it real quick, but it was switching back and forth in the panels between what I would kind of consider a serious looking character. You'd have your character in there, and then it would cut to the cutesy version of the character, and then it would cut back, it, displaying emotion. So if the character was embarrassed, or if the character was yeah, pretty much embarrassed, or one of those emotions, they would kind of cut to the sort of cutesy look to it, and that kind of distracted Bear a little. Let me see if I can bear with Bear for 1 second as he goes through the book here. Just open it up. But yeah, it had this sort of kind of cutesy look to it. Let me see if I can find it here. Well, there's this one right here with the kids, which kind of had the look to it. Let me show you here. So you can kind of see the kids there. They kind of got that sort of cutesy look. That's not what I'm talking about. You got he's checking out Battle Maiden right there. But he goes from the sort of normal, although he's crying there, sort of normal look, and that's what I'm talking about. The sort of cutesy sort of look to it. Oh, you can't see it. There we are. So it goes to that, but then like, right here, he kind of goes between, like, the sort of cutesy sort of cartoon look to the sort of regular look that he had. And it's fine when they do that with, like, the character that's talking. There we go. I don't mind that. But when it kind of was going in between panels, and Bear's going to have to go through it and find a better example of that. But yeah, it kind of was a little bit distracting, just a little bit. But I tell you what, I mean, out of all the stuff, you know, out of 1 to 10 is a 9.5. I think Bear's really just kind of nitpicking at some of the stuff here. The first book was just slightly better, but yeah, the second book, when he comes up with the campaign, I wouldn't discourage anybody from getting it. Definitely check it out. If you didn't get it the first round, I would say definitely check out these premium versions that they had here. If you're interested in collecting or anything like that. Humans, thank you for watching this video. If you wish to have more, please like and subscribe. And don't forget that bell for notification. It would please Bear very much. You don't want to see Bear bad, do you? Grrrr.